we got a really great question to do with uh, men and self-care. It was a brilliant question. I wish I came up with it myself. And it is self-care a feminine thing? I can see why you think so because of the kind of softer side of it. It really is looking at not so much the aggression or the um, thinking of pushing forward, but it has a lot more to do with reflection. It has a lot more to do with the things you don't know about yourself. It has a lot more to do generally than for men with more emotional or mental processes, way of thinking about things. And to be completely fair, the social environment for men has changed drastically in the last few years. What society is asking from men is very different than traditionally seen, and it is quite the journey. We haven't really had the time for the man to kind of grow at the speed at which things are changing for them, and this creates a lot of pressures from from the outside world on men. And this whole thing is the integration of the more emotional or feminine side of a man. And there always is within each person a masculine and feminine element. When these things are balanced, we call this person grounded. And because of this technology, the new age of stuff, people have to be very independent. And the biggest challenge for men in this way is incorporating that other side of themselves. Now, to be fair, growing up as a boy, people don't really have the same empathy about your feelings. It's more of a rough and tough life, and you have to be strong, and you have to continue, and you have to kind of have this strength about you to push against life, to carve out your own piece of land, to go on your journey. And this is very a traditional way of thinking of it. However, it is the absolute reality of the situation. If a guy didn't have that, life would be very hard. It'd be very hard. It'd be very distorting. It would be emotionally and mentally challenging because you have to have a certain sense of self, certain sturdiness about you to be a guy. That's kind of just a prerequisite in a way. And what social society is asking is the opposite. So when somebody says, "Oh, this guy has toxic male energy or masculine energy," this kind of, what are they really talking about? They're talking about an ungrounded male, essentially one that is not held down in a grounded or rooted way by his convictions or his understanding of self or his feminine element, if you want to call it something. Uh, and this is more balanced than anything else. And it's very hard for guys in this sense because we have a kind of purpose of being a provider, being the person to be looked up to, being the person that is capable of overcoming every challenge, all challenges, anything that is put on us. And this creates a misbalance, as you can see. So we can become more aggressive or feel that way, or even be that way if it's brought out of proportion. But the idea of self care is kind of bringing ourselves back into this grounded kind of person of who we really are. When people don't address our emotional needs, when we don't address our emotional needs, there's always going to be an interruption of generally frustration, which is then seen as anger, which is really just a misunderstanding of a feeling. That's really how it plays out uh, in a way. But the idea of self care is to understand that other side of yourself. With having this understanding, you feel more grounded. You're able to overcome challenges more as yourself as opposed to distorting your personality to get something accomplished. You are more than your accomplishments, and your accomplishments don't speak so much about yourself, but is more your character. This thing that used to be very, very important, your word, your honor, these things I think are more needed now than ever before. However, the modern man has a very hard challenge to overcome because of the individual aspect of things, because family is not part of our identity as much anymore, and we are our own identity and we are our own selves, and we have to express these things in a very precise way. And if we can't, then we're nobody, or we don't know who we are. These are the modern day challenges, and the way to kind of take them on appropriately is definitely going to be a thing of self-reflection, of looking at that part of yourself that you're not maybe accustomed to. And generally for men, it's going to be the emotional side of yourself. We have emotions, we are emotional, we have reactions more or less. A reaction is kind of a unthought out way of feeling something, generally a lot more harsh than it needs to be. And to put things in perspective, generally, ladies have a lot more of a colorful palette when it comes to emotions. They can speak about them in many different ways. There's lots of emotions. They have a plethora of ways of being able to express these things and being more or less accepted for this expression um, by their girlfriends or by their elders. And guys don't have the same outlet, which causes this disruption of who they are in their completeness, right? If nobody else is acknowledging that I have feelings, I must not have feelings then. So let me just continue. And this is something that we're really going to have to work on if we want to really integrate ourselves into this modern way of living or the pressures that are on us. And that, for that reason, I think that self-care doesn't really have a gender. It really is more a restoration of self in a way of being grounded, in a way of contributing to our group, the people that are important around us, and a way of leading life through action.